You're not your thoughts. You're just under their spell. You think that voice in your head is you, the one that doubts, that spirals, that narrates every situation like it's preparing for system failure. But that's not you. That's just code, installed years ago, by repetition, by trauma, by culture, by people who programmed you before you knew how to protect your input. Now it runs, without your permission, and now the system thinks that's you. You don't question the thought. You obey it. You argue with it. You spiral inside it. And in doing so, you reinforce its control. But here's the shift. You're not the thinker. You're the one who can observe the thought without merging with it. And the moment you realize that, you don't need to fight it. You just stop believing everything it says. You don't escape the loop by thinking harder. You escape by seeing the loop as not you. That's the first cut, the first break, the first step toward cold thinking. Let's begin. Thought isn't truth. It's just code that got repeated. You think because it's in your head, it must be true. You think because it feels loud, it must be real. But thoughts don't become truth by being accurate. They become truth by being repeated. Your mind is a pattern engine. It recycles fragments, memories, messages, warnings, voices you forgot weren't yours. And once repeated enough, the code embeds into default response. A teacher says, "Don't speak." You file it as, "I'm better quiet." A parent says, "You always mess up." You file it as, "I'm careless." You get left once, and the loop says, "I'm hard to love." Not because it's true, but because it installed. You don't evaluate thoughts. You adopt them, internalize them, live them, and then defend them like they were born with you. But here's the cut. Just because a thought repeats doesn't mean it belongs. Your brain doesn't seek truth. It seeks familiar. And familiar equals safe. So whatever helped you survive once gets replayed forever until you stop and say, "Wait, did I choose this?" Most of the pain you carry was narrated by thought patterns you never wrote. You embedded them before you knew how to route signal. This is why mindset doesn't work. Because if the source code isn't audited, no amount of positivity will rewire it. You don't need better thoughts. You need to see that you are not the thought generator. You are the observer with the power to recode. That shift, from identification to observation, is where cold thinking begins. Let's break the spell next. Signs you're under the thought spell. You don't know the spell is running until you realize you've been reacting to it for years, not questioning it, not interrupting it, just obeying. Here's how you know your thoughts are driving the system, not you. 1. You believe everything you think without asking where it came from. The thought says, "They don't like me." You feel rejected. It says, "I'll fail again." You stop trying. It says, "I'm not ready." You delay your entire life, not because it's true, but because it's persistent. 2. You don't observe thoughts. You merge with them. There's no space, no pause, no internal distance. The thought appears, and you become it. That's not awareness. That's hijacked execution. 3. You try to fix emotions by feeding the thought more thought. You overanalyze, rerun conversations, imagine outcomes. But the more you think, the more the loop tightens. You're not resolving anything. You're looping. 4. You call your thought patterns just how I am. You say, "I'm just anxious. I'm overthinker. I'm always like this." But identity built from unchallenged thought isn't identity. It's programming. 5. You can't stop thinking. Even when nothing needs to be solved, the mind keeps running. even when you're tired, even when it hurts. That's not you thinking. That's code running in the background. When the spell is active, you don't choose thoughts. They choose you, and you act from them as if they're truth. You're not broken. You're just under legacy protocol. Let's learn how to break it next. Break the thought spell. You are the observer, not the voice. There's a moment when the voice in your head says something cruel, and for the first time you don't believe it. You don't fight it. You don't explain it. You just pause and ask, who said that? That's the cut. That's when the spell breaks. Not because the thought stops, but because you stopped mistaking it for yourself. The thought says, you're behind. You say, noted. It says, you'll fail. You say, legacy code. It says, they don't care. You say, old code. And suddenly, you're not the voice. You're the observer of it. That gap between stimulus and self is everything. Because once there's space, there's choice. Cold mind doesn't stop thought. It separates from it. Calmly, cleanly, not emotionally, not dramatically. Just, that's not me. That's background code I didn't select. You don't break the thought spell by having better thoughts. You break it by realizing, this system generates content. And I don't auto-run unknown code. This is where cold thinking begins, not with smarter beliefs, but with clearer distance. You don't need to fix the thought. You need to see it as just another sound in the system. Some thoughts get execution. Most get ignored. But none of them define you unless you identify. You're not the script. You're the one holding the pen who forgot they could stop writing. Now, we take back control. Let's make it tactical. Thought Spell Break Protocol. 3 tactical steps to regain signal. You don't need to control your thoughts. You need to stop confusing them with truth. You don't need to make them stop. You need to make them irrelevant. Here's how Cold Mind does it. 3 tactical steps. No story, no drama. Just signal recovery. 1. Observe the thought. Don't enter it. The moment it appears, pause. Label it. Not as truth, but as content. This is a thought. Not, this is me. Not, this is reality. The goal isn't to argue. The goal is to separate, like watching clouds pass. You don't chase them. You don't name them. You just let them move. The moment you label it as a thought instead of my truth, you weaken its grip. 2. Interrupt the loop. Most thoughts become dangerous because they're connected to reaction. Thought, emotion, behavior, confirmation. You don't need to fix the thought. You just need to cut the circuit. Stand up, change your posture, move your body, flag the loop, verbally or mentally. That alone breaks the rhythm. Your body resets the state, and the loop doesn't complete. No completion equals no reinforcement. 3. Recode the narrative. Now, rewrite the default. Not emotionally, not dramatically. Just choose a sentence that feels neutral, stable, functional. Examples. I don't know what will happen, so I won't assume. I can feel something without acting on it. This thought is old. I choose signal over story. Cold thought isn't about being positive. It's about being clean. You don't feed the loop. You install new logic. Repeat to replace, not to feel better. That's the protocol. Observe without merging. Interrupt without arguing. Recode without interpretation. Clean system. Cold process. No narrative drama. And now, you don't just think. You choose which code runs. Let's close the loop. Final message. The mind is a system. not a master. Your mind was never built to lead. It was built to solve, to react, to protect. It's a tool, a processor, a code-running machine. But somewhere along the way, you mistook the machine for the master. You believed every loop, chased every what-if, reacted to every false alarm like it was gospel. Not because it was true, but because it was familiar. But now you've seen it. The thought is not you. It's just the oldest software still running in the background. And the moment you pause, see it, name it, interrupt it, you take the first step toward mental sovereignty. Cold mind doesn't delete thoughts. It doesn't fear thoughts. It runs them like a system. It asks, is this useful? Is this signal or static? Does this serve my structure or just trigger my past? That's not mindset. That's architecture. From now on, you don't think to feel better. From here, run signal, kill story, maintain system. In the next video, we'll dive into cold thinking, how to build decision logic from structure, not sensation. From signal, not story. Subscribe, break the loop, rote signal. Maintain command. Your mind is not you. But now, it works for you.